All right, guys, welcome to part 2 with those two dudes. It's that dude, Josh.
That's that dude, Ruben.
All right, we had to take a fresher, man. We had to go get a drink, go to a bar, drink our arguments away. Part 1 was a doozy. We just don't agree. College football. We're not going to dive into it. Go to part 1, click on that, see what all the fuss is about there. But obviously, we were still heavy on the topic of what ifs, right? What ifs in sports. One of my biggest what ifs, which is a what if that spans over 2 different sports, is in 1994, there was a strike in Major League Baseball. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. So what happened in 94, there was a Major League strike. In baseball, there's 162 games. In this strike in 94, the season was canceled after about 113 games. So the season was already almost over. And this was a big deal on so many levels. If you remember, the strike happened towards the end of the season. There was no World Series that year. The Montreal Expos, they were the team that was in first place at the time. I think they had a 6-game lead over the Atlanta Braves, who at the time, the Atlanta Braves, they were going on their run and their dynasty at the time, winning a record, I think it was like 13 straight division titles. They were led by Larry Walker, Pedro Martinez, Moises Alou. This was in 94. They hadn't made the playoffs since 1981. They had the best record in the NL. The strike happens. They're not able to go to the playoffs because they lost so much money that year because the games canceled. They had to cut up on their payroll, so they lose one of their biggest young stars in Larry Walker. He signs a record deal with Colorado. Colorado ends up doing really well. He has a Hall of Fame career with the Rockies. Over the next couple of years, Montreal, they end up losing Pedro Martinez to the Boston Red Sox. And then by 2004, the Montreal Expos ended up relocating to Washington, D.C., which they never made the playoffs again. So a big what if is, what if that season never went on a strike? Part of that strike, though, was who else was playing baseball in 94 that was an iconic figure? Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was playing baseball. He was part of that strike that they happened. So what was he doing in his spare time? Oh, the baseball strike ended. I'm going to start going to Chicago Bulls practices. I'm going to hit up my old buddies over there, see what's going on, hang out with them. He starts going to practices. The rest is history, but he ends up joining the Bulls, going on to win 3 more championships after that. That affects the NBA. That affects Major League. It kind of drives me crazy because Montreal, they had their best record ever. They were about to make the playoffs for the first time in 13 years. They had a ton of young talent. Not only do they not make the playoffs, but they lose that young talent, and then they end up losing the entire team to a different city. And then Michael Jordan, who was affected by this strike, he then goes back to the NBA. So can you imagine if the strike didn't happen?
Maybe Washington's still in Montreal. Maybe they go on to win the whole thing, grab more fans, make more money. I don't know the reason for it necessarily being in Montreal, but usually when teams leave, it's because of
attendance and bad records.
As far as Michael Jordan goes, what if he doesn't retire from the NBA and go play baseball? Do they win more championships? So a little backstory. Jordan came into the league in like 84. They struggled in the 80s. For those of y'all that don't remember, Jordan and the Bulls, they struggled getting past the great team of the Celtics, Larry Bird's Celtics, Isaiah Thomas's Pistons. In 87, they got Scottie Pippen, so he got his sidekick. And then they got Phil Jackson, I believe, in 89.
It was like 89, 90, but I think the real Kickstarter for that group was when they got Doug Collins. He kind of put them on the right track, and then when they got Phil Jackson, he kind of put them over the next level.
Right. Yeah. So then when you have Scottie Pippen, he was in 87. He's still a rookie. He's still young. Give him a few years, come into the 90s. Now he's got some years under his belt. He's a formidable player. He's a really good player. Jordan's in his prime. He's learning to trust his teammates. He's got Scottie Pippen coming into his own. So they take over 90, 91. I believe they beat Detroit in the Eastern Conference Final.
They beat Detroit, yeah.
Maybe it was the second round or something like that. They beat Detroit though, so they get past that hump that was giving them struggle the previous couple years. Then they meet the team of the 80s, the LA Lakers in the finals, and they beat Magic Johnson and the Lakers. So Jordan's here now. This is Jordan's time to shine. He's the face of the NBA. They go on to win 2 more championships in 92, 93. So it's 3 straight championships. So the Bulls are like in their heyday. And then bam, tragedy happens. What happens? Michael Jordan's dad shot and killed in the summer of 93. Michael Jordan's dad, he was a huge baseball fan. And Michael Jordan was quoted as saying that his dad always envisioned him in the big league. So he decides to play minor league baseball. Just bam, retire right in the midst of their run. 3 straight championships. And then that summer, a couple months after winning it, he retired from basketball. And he goes plays baseball. I mean, the best basketball player of all time. Right after his
Oh no, he retired in his prime. My biggest thing though is, what if he didn't retire after the end of the 98 season? Right? What if Jerry Krause wasn't the problem? Or what if he said, you know what? What if he didn't say the things he said to Phil Jackson going into the 98 season?
Well, let's touch on both. So after the 93 season, when he retired, at that point, he's still definitely in the prime of his career. Scottie Pippen is entering the prime of his career as well. Do you think they win the championship in either 94 or 95, the year the Houston Rockets won back-to-back?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course they do.
So I'm thinking maybe they get one and maybe Houston gets one. I don't know.
I would. My guess would be that they probably get 94. I think they probably lose in the second one though in 95.
When Houston added Clyde
Drexler. Yeah, that's my guess. What if the team did defend their title at the end of the 98 season? You know, what if? And also you have more time because they went into a lockout, right? So they started the season later. They had less amount of games in the 99 season, so they had more time to rest because they were getting older.
They only had 50 games that year.
Yeah, they only had 50 games that year. So I would imagine the Bulls can get through that gauntlet in that playoffs and go to the finals. Yeah. Nothing is going to change on the West side, so they would be playing our San Antonio Spurs. The Bulls take the Spurs. The Bulls take the Spurs probably in like 5 or 6 games.
You think Bulls win that?
Yeah,
I think that would have been a great series.
I mean, we say that because we're Spurs fans.
Perhaps, but I mean, no, the Spurs also had a relatively prime still David Robinson, and then you have
Sean Elliott, Avery Johnson,
all time Tim Duncan.
Yeah,
in his second year now.
Also, Steve Kerr was on our roster. Does Steve Kerr stay with the Bulls, or does he come to San Antonio?
At least give us him. They keep Jordan. We got Steve Kerr.
At least give us him. If Jordan's coming back, if that team is coming back, Steve Kerr's coming back. He's not coming to San Antonio. So that's my biggest what if is what if they came back. Like, let's say I'm right. Let's say they do come back for the 99 season. Let's say they beat the Spurs. Now, are they obligated to come back again to defend their 4th championship in a row?
I mean, they got to retire at some point.
And we're not going to go down our list of best players in NBA history. We agree that number 1 is Michael Jordan. That's it.
We agree on that.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I know some kids today will fight us tooth and nail on that argument.
Yeah, some of these kids that were born in 2001 and later will argue with us. Another what if that I had, the great Drew Bledsoe. 2001, you know, he's the starter for the New England Patriots. Second game of the season. The NFL draft before, no big deal. They drafted this quarterback in the 6th round. Who cares? Teams do that all the time. It doesn't matter.
Quarterback from Michigan.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Drew Bledsoe goes down second game of the season. Enters pick 199 from the 6th round, Mr. Tom Brady. The rest is history. Yeah. Now, what if Drew Bledsoe doesn't get hurt? He gets hurt. He has that injury history. He goes to the Bills. He doesn't have a great tenure there at the Bills. In 2005, he signs with the Cowboys. He plays the whole season there. They go 9-7. They don't make the playoffs. The next year, he's playing really shoddy. He still has some injury effects there. He gets replaced by none other than Tony Romo. So he's now been replaced by 2 franchise quarterbacks.
And at this point, he
retires. What if he never gets hurt?
Ultimately, Brady's going to get his chance because if he's as good as we all know he is, he has to be showcasing in practice at this point, right? Drew Bledsoe, he was a good quarterback. He wasn't a great quarterback.
They went to the Super Bowl under Drew Bledsoe.
He goes to Super Bowl, I believe, in 97 or
97 against the Packers.
Possible we never see Mr. Tom Brady.
Also, it should be noted that at one point during that season, during his rookie year, Tom Brady, He did get injured in the playoffs where he missed a playoff game. I think it was the AFC Championship game against the Steelers where Drew Bledsoe played, and they won that game to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which Tom Brady started the Super Bowl.
Right. And
So.
they won the Super Bowl, and then yes, I remember that. But I think ultimately Tom Brady's going to get in the game one way or another, whether it's that year, maybe next year, the year after that.
I think you're right. Tom Brady does get in, but I don't think that. I think it takes an injury for him to get in, because if you have a quarterback like Drew Bledsoe, who's a serviceable quarterback, who is an average, maybe slightly above average quarterback,
I'd say flat.
especially in that time in the NFL where everybody had a much longer leash. There isn't going to be real pressure to pull Drew Bledsoe. There isn't going to be real pressure to put in Tom Brady. So that's why I think it would only take an injury for Tom Brady to get on the field.
Yeah, what if? There's lots of what ifs in the sports world.
Appreciate y'all sticking around for part 2. Part 1 was a doozy. That'll go up soon. Obviously, let us know what other what ifs in this sports world that you guys remember or that you wish that would have happened, whether it was Michael Jordan going to the Blazers, getting drafted by them, or something else that's crazy. I'm sure all of our viewers know this past week was the first episode of this season's The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. Intense stuff. Electric, super electric. But yeah, let us know what y'all want to hear. Let us know what ifs you guys would have wish happened. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on Spotify. Like and subscribe. Thumbs up. Follow. Everything in between. It's that dude Josh.
That's that dude Ruben.
Check us out. Like and follow. See y'all on the flip side.